If you're listening to this, chances are you're someone who is, well, highly capable, deeply committed, and let's be honest, probably completely overcommitted.
Hmm.
And you find yourself just perpetually drained, but there's this nagging guilt every time you even think about pulling back.
Right, because the culture rewards it.
Exactly. In our modern professional culture, exhaustion isn't just normalized, it's often praised. It's like a badge of honor.
And that constant sort of silent erosion of your energy and peace, that feeling of living with the access panel always open, that's what the author calls the exposed life.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We are pulling the wisdom from engineer Reuben Juma Onunga's really practical work, Watertight Boundaries.
Yeah, and we're trying to figure out how to build that defense system.
Our mission for this deep dive is really a shortcut to implementation.
Mm.
We want to extract the practical tools you need to move from that exposed reactive life.
To what Onunga calls a protected life.
Yes. And in doing that, we're really challenging this pervasive, draining belief that true commitment means you have to be available all the time.
He uses this analogy right at the start that just clarifies everything, and it's what you should really keep in your mind through our whole conversation.
The ship.
The ship. A ship doesn't sink because of the water around it. I mean, pressure, demand, responsibility, those things are just part of the ocean. They're unavoidable.
Right.
The ship sinks because of the water that gets inside.
So boundaries then, using that framework, they aren't walls of isolation. They're not meant to keep the world out.
No, not at all. They're the unseen structures, the systems of wisdom that regulate what comes into your vessel, and just as importantly, what stays out.
So the whole book is really asking you to shift your perspective. It's saying that strong, resilient lives aren't built by, like, hiding from the world.
No, they're built by remaining fundamentally intact within it. It's all about learning how to keep the whole sound.
Okay, let's unpack that idea of the exposed life, because it's so seductive. On the surface, exposure seems, well, it seems virtuous, right?
Completely.
Being available, always responsive, open to every single request, it gets praised as kindness or commitment or even humility. I mean, who wants to be seen as rigid?
And that hits home for so many people, especially in leadership or any high-demand career. The author points out that modern culture rewards saying yes. It creates this feedback loop for exhaustion.
But the hidden cost is, it's massive. It's cumulative.
It is. It means you're allowing constant entry into your time, your emotional space, your mental energy, without any kind of filter or structure.
And the danger, like you said, isn't some sudden big failure. It's this slow, gradual erosion, like a constant trickle.
Exactly. Energy leaks out in those small, 3-minute unnecessary phone calls. Peace erodes with every notification that interrupts deep work.
And your clarity just dissolves under the weight of too much low-value input. By the time you feel exhausted, the leak is already structural.
And technology is the perfect accelerant for all of this. I mean, historically, we had natural barriers.
Yeah.
The office closed. A letter took days to arrive.
There was a built-in pause.
There was a pause. Now those are completely gone. Since a message can arrive instantly, we've normalized 24/7 connectivity, so you are never truly offline.
And that anticipation, just waiting for the next ping, that prevents any real recovery.
It does.
I think that's the most important nugget from this first part, that being constantly exposed doesn't actually make you more effective. It just makes you more scattered.
Your mind gets tired, your spirit gets restless, and your purpose just gets blurry under all that noise.
You're just reacting all day. Deep work, the kind that actually moves the needle, becomes almost impossible.
So the foundational takeaway for you, the listener, is this. Boundaries begin with recognizing that access to you, to your time, your focus, your energy, it has to be earned. It can't just be assumed.
So not every request, no matter how nicely it's phrased, deserves your automatic yes.
Exactly. Building these structures just ensures your giving is intentional and sustainable, not just forced compliance out of guilt. And that brings us right to the biggest challenge, what Onunga calls the greatest misunderstanding.
The guilt.
The guilt. Almost everyone who resists setting boundaries does it because they equate them with being, unloving or selfish or cold.
I agree. That's where all the friction is. We've culturally fused the idea of love, or even just professional loyalty, with this expectation of unlimited access. So how does the book get around that perception that protecting yourself is selfish?
It's very direct about it. It says that love or loyalty without boundaries doesn't stay love for very long. It can't sustain itself.
It just sours.
It slowly and inevitably turns into burnout, exhaustion, and this deep resentment. And that resentment is just so destructive.
That's a powerful idea, that healthy relationships, professional or personal, actually require structure. You used that analogy before.
Yeah.
The river.
Yes, the river. Think of your capacity to give as a river. It needs banks. A river without banks doesn't just nourish the land.
It floods. It destroys everything. It loses its own identity and just becomes a swamp.
Exactly. Boundaries are the banks.
Mm.
They stop your generosity from becoming this overwhelming, destructive force, both for you and for the person you're trying to help.
And then the book pivots from managing time to managing energy, which I think is such a critical shift.
It is.
We talk about time blocking all the time, but the problem usually isn't the 24 hours in a day. It's the lack of usable, high-quality energy within those hours.
Onunga calls energy sacred capital. And then that might sound a little philosophical, but it's intensely practical.
Yes.
Energy fuels everything that matters.
Yeah.
How patiently you respond to your team, how deeply you can focus on a complex problem, the quality of your judgment.
And here's why it's capital. Unlike money, you can't borrow energy from tomorrow without paying interest.
That is so true.
If you overspend your energy today by, say, working until 11 p.m. on something that wasn't a real emergency, you don't start tomorrow at zero. You start in debt.
You do. And
Uh-huh.
boundaries exist to protect this capital. But the drains aren't always these big dramatic things. They're often very subtle.
Like what?
Things like emotional labor without any reciprocity, constant exposure to other people's low-grade anxiety, or just, mental clutter.
Oh, the mental clutter is huge, just from processing hundreds of non-urgent emails or irrelevant chat messages.
Right. So the book emphasizes that protecting this energy isn't selfish at all. It's an act of stewardship. If you burn out, you have nothing left to steward for anyone.
Okay, let's talk about the biggest implementation barrier. Just not being able to say no. This is where the guilt really hits.
It's a huge chapter in the book for a reason.
Chapter 4 tackles this, and it points out that so many of us choose compliance over our own conviction because we mistake that discomfort, that feeling of guilt, for our actual conscience.
We've all been there. You get a request, you feel that internal no, but then the guilt just washes over you and you hear yourself saying, okay, I can squeeze it in.
And the second you do that, you start over-explaining, over-apologizing.
Which just weakens the very boundary you were trying to set.
I think the real fear is the conflict, or feeling like you have to write this 4-paragraph email explaining why you can't make a meeting. So what's the book's core insight on this?
It's so simple. It's that clarity does not require excessive explanation. A calm, respectful no is a complete sentence.
The power is in the brevity.
It is. When you over-explain, you're just handing the other person ammunition to argue against your reasons.
So what you, the listener, need to internalize is this. You are responsible for communicating the boundary, calmly, clearly, but you're not responsible for how the other person feels about it.
Right. Saying no is what keeps your yes meaningful and honest.
Okay, building on that, Chapter 5 gets into emotional boundaries, especially in what it calls our emotionally loud world.
Which is such a good description of modern life. We're constantly pressured to react, to engage instantly with every piece of outrage or drama that comes our way.
And if we don't have those boundaries, our inner life just becomes chaotic. We absorb everyone else's anxiety, their anger. We start treating their crises as our own.
We get emotionally entangled.
So what's the tool? What does the book offer here?
A very specific, very accessible tool. The boundary of the pause. This is the mechanism that helps you decide what you absorb and what you let go.
The pause.
Yes. The fundamental truth here is that not every feeling expressed around you requires your immediate participation.
That's powerful, because that pause creates space between the stimulus and your reaction. It stops you from making decisions driven by just, momentary emotion.
For a professional, that pause could mean waiting 10 minutes before replying to a 10th email, just to reread it and respond with strategy, not instinct. It allows for empathy without entanglement.
So if we accept that this foundation is necessary, we have to look at where it's hardest to implement, the modern battlegrounds.
Work, family, and the digital world.
Let's start with work. For our audience, this is often where the lines are the blurriest. They're leaders, they're high performers. Isn't saying no sometimes just seen as avoiding accountability?
That's the key challenge. But Onunga makes a clear distinction between setting a boundary and avoiding responsibility. Work boundaries are about protecting sustainable, high-quality performance.
So it's not about doing less work.
No, it's about doing focused work. For example, setting a boundary like, my deep work window is from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Notifications are off, meetings are declined. That's not avoidance. That's resource protection.
That makes sense. It stops the expectation that you're infinitely available, which is what always leads to burnout. It ensures real urgency isn't constantly derailed by manufactured urgency.
And then you have the digital battlefield. In this world of Slack, Teams, email, digital boundaries are not a luxury anymore. They're a survival strategy.
Because our attention is that sacred capital we talked about, and technology is literally designed to consume it.
So we have to go beyond just turning off notifications. A real digital boundary requires deliberate design.
Like what? Give me an example.
Like setting an internal SLA for yourself. Maybe you don't broadcast it, but you decide, I respond to non-urgent emails within 4 hours, but after 6 p.m., my replies are queued for the next morning.
That's so critical, especially for global teams.
Yeah.
If you manage people across 5 time zones, someone is always starting their day.
Always. And if you don't set a digital curfew for yourself, you teach your whole organization that you're always on watch, which creates this constant low-grade anxiety for everyone.
Technology has to serve your goals, not consume your life. The second you pick up your phone out of habit, not intention, that boundary has failed.
Okay, so now we have to prepare you for the inevitable consequence of all this, which is detailed in Chapter 9.
The pushback.
The pushback. Boundaries will offend some people. You just have to accept this as part of the process.
Why, though? Why does it cause offense?
Because your new boundary disrupts an established and often unspoken and unfair expectation that someone had about your time or your energy.
So when you feel that friction, that's when the real test begins. The book says offense is often a sign of adjustment, not actual harm.
Exactly. What that offense really reveals is that someone expected unlimited access to you, probably without even thinking about it.
So the advice is to just stay steady. Don't immediately retreat back to your old habits because you're afraid of their disapproval.
Right. Because those who genuinely respect you and your mission will eventually adjust. They'll come to respect your boundaries.
And those who don't, who keep pushing, who call you unsupportive.
They're often revealing a deeper issue of their own entitlement. Boundaries don't create conflict. They just reveal the draining dynamics that were already there. They let you filter where you invest your energy.
So let's bring this all together. What is the core message of Watertight Boundaries?
That living a protected life is a deliberate life. It's marked by a sort of calm consistency. It means you accept full responsibility for what you allow into your inner world, your thoughts, your emotions, your focus.
It's stewardship, not withdrawal.
Exactly. When your boundaries are consistent, internal stability returns. The chaos outside no longer gets to live inside you.
And the final really powerful idea underpinning all of this is that peace is built, not found. It's not something you just stumble upon when every task is done, every email is answered, because, let's face it, that day never actually comes.
Never. Boundaries reverse the logic. They create the container of peace first, and then they allow life and all its demands to flow within that stable structure.
Okay, so we'll leave you with a final thought to reflect on, which is drawn from the book's discussion on spiritual boundaries.
The strongest lives are not the most available, but the most intact. So if real strength is built in the unseen, in the quiet clarity of your own mind, what intentional separation will you prioritize this week to restore that inner order?
Will it be solitude, structured rest, or maybe some really aggressive digital filtering? All with the knowledge that what repeatedly enters your mind, eventually and powerfully directs the entire course of your life.